Even though I'm a woman that can only be taken by the wind, I'm sending you an invitation to love with the 1986 film His Motorbike, Her Island by Obayashi.
Believe it or not, Eraserhead is my most spiritual film.
What will elaborate on that?
No.
And I make films because I have not learned anything else.
This is the Emma of the Impact Film Podcast, where my guests pick the movie that neither of us have seen and we discuss it. My guest today is.
Hello, it is me, Marta McFly. It's so good to be here. I'm very excited to chat about this film.
This film is about a young man, Ko, and his lover, a Kawasaki W3 motorbike, and they meet a rural woman, and this is their love story, the three of them. Why did you pick this movie?
I wish I could give you a better reason. I picked this movie just because it's been on my watch list forever. I know that you showed me your watch list where you had your movies, and I was just delighted to see so much overlap, and particularly for a movie like this one where you can't find it on streaming that often. And it was just a perfect excuse to get a physical copy right here. I love a
Same.
good excuse to expand my collection, and this one really stood out to me.
So you know what I like about you, Marta, is you really are great with describing films in the terms of emotions that make sense to what the film is, what it represents, how a viewer would experience. And I have to admit to you that you're the one that introduced me to Tempopo with one of your videos, I believe on TikTok. And I watched Tempopo and I loved it and adored it. And I also spent 2 weeks making fancy ramen. So thank you for that.
Yay. Oh, that makes me so happy to hear. Tampopo is honestly just one of my favorite comfort movies. I'm actually really happy that you bring up Itami because I was watching another Obayashi movie last night. By the time it was over, I really thought to myself, like, I wonder if Itami was inspired by him at all or vice versa, just because they're just so similar in terms of like, having that sort of comforting and playful vibe in their films.
Which film did you watch?
It was called School in the Crosshairs.
Interesting about School in the Crosshairs is that I learned through the commentary with this film that it was part of a box set, and it's part of the box set of the Karawaka. It's the films he made for a certain production company, and His Motorbike, Her Island is also a part of that.
Mhm.
Then the other films are School in the Crosshairs, as you mentioned, The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, and The Island Closest to Heaven. And he has, at least on Letterboxd, 77 films listed. I watched Beijing Watermelon, which I highly recommend, and with films you've liked, I highly recommend it for you as well. He has such a wide variety of films, and I'm not sure because I haven't seen enough of his films yet to say. It does seem more of his idiosyncratic films have gone over to a general audience or
Mhm.
English-speaking audiences more than some of his others that are more cultural. But before you picked this movie, my introduction to Obayashi was the film House because I'm a
Mhm.
horror gal through and through. Is it the same for you?
Of course, yeah. I feel like everybody in the West would say House or the majority of people. It's a double-edged sword because don't get me wrong, I love that movie. It's one of my favorite horror movies of all time, truly. But then you start thinking, okay, so everything else I see by him is gonna be similar. While the visual language can be similar, you look at all these different genres that he does, as you said, and there's so much more to explore. There's so much more beyond House.
He was one of those directors. We think of Steven Spielberg being another. His family was fairly well off enough where he could have a video camera back when he was a little kid, and he would even draw on the film and create all these little things. And he would do films for local businesses.
Mm.
Then eventually he did commercials, which he was happy to do because at the time there wasn't a lot of budget going to actual films. The way he said it is if I was going to do a movie, which he had not done a House, his first feature yet, I couldn't do a big blue sky in film, but in commercials, I could. My favorite one that I found was I don't remember what the commercial was for, but it's called Mansome, and it had Charles Bronson in it. I just remember Charles Bronson putting on clothes and there's a big pipe in his mouth.
Oh my
Mansome.
god. I
It's
love
on
that.
if you look it up on YouTube, you can find a few of his
Mhm.
commercials. And I watched a lot of interviews with him, well, a few, and he's somebody that you can tell loves film. and he did a 2-hour plus documentary on Kurosawa's dreams. This guy
Mhm.
loves cinema. Do you feel this way? Do you think he minds that you're watching a movie? Because sometimes I think he doesn't mind. He's playing
No.
with you a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It was something that I noticed in quite a few of his films too. It's just that absurdism where I don't know if you've seen in a few of his films, you'll have characters talking and right behind them there's an entire like brass band playing. Like
I
that's
saw
just
emotions
so
as well.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, I would say that he loves that and he's sharing his love of cinema with us.
I've heard other directors refer to it as cinema first, where he thinks
Mhm.
about how the camera is going to interact and move and different old film animation tricks that he uses. And a lot of the time, there's a big green screen. That's less prevalent in this film, His Motorbike, Her Island. In an interview that's on the disc that we both have, he talks about B movies and American B movies. And he said, "This is my B movie," and it did premiere with another film, and this one was, like, the lesser of the films, and there's a lot of the stars are idols. So, there's a lot of things that make it perfect for this B movie, and he describes B movies as challenging films. You directed House, that's not a challenging film? I mean, his idea was that usually with the what he said what you consider with the A picture back when there were blockbusters with the movie theaters, there you get the B, the lesser film, which he doesn't consider that the thing, and the A movie. And the B movie usually has less of a budget. The director doesn't have necessarily a story to tell that is clear cut. And this movie also was originally 2 hours, and
Mm.
he had to cut it down to 90 minutes. They're like, oh no, whoa. So I think that adds to the feeling of this movie, even though I didn't notice. This feels like a melodrama. It's very much shown in the emotions. Do you feel like it almost feels like a cartoon? How do you feel about
Yeah.
the tone of this film?
Yeah, totally. I think it definitely feels like a cartoon, and I like that it's so fast paced because it matches the story itself, like riding on motorcycles, wanting to be like the wind. The film feels so breezy. In terms of American directors, I would even compare it to when you said cartoony is Tashlin. Because
Oh,
Tashlin
really?
also had that sort of comedic element to his films as well. So yeah, weirdly enough, I felt like this was like a Japanese
I
Tashlin.
definitely can see that. So, adolescence. Adolescence. Let's go back to that.
Mm, mhm.
Oh, never. Adolescence in general in film. The first adolescent look back film, depending on who you talk to, is Truffaut's 400 Blows. But
Mhm.
when it comes to American film, Rebel Without a Cause and the James Dean of it all. But in the 50s in America, adolescence wasn't really a thing people had before. They went to work, or maybe some people that could go to school, but there was no teenagehood where you had time, and teenagers all of a sudden had cars. And
Mhm.
so teenagers would be in a lot of B movies like The Villain, like Scary Teens, Teenage Crime Wave, Beatniks. And this is the biker time where it's more greasers, way before 1969's Easy Riders. Bikers are always the greasers with the bad kids from the other side of the track. There's a huge motorcycle movement called Bozozuko. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, 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 yeah. So I think it's translated to running out of control tribes.
That's fun. I know it
Mhm.
started in World War II with a lot of these
Mhm.
young men coming back to Japan and feeling restless. And this
Mhm.
movie is very much about feeling restless. Our main character, Ko, unlike his friends and first girlfriend, he doesn't seem to have as much of a direction
Mhm.
with his life. How do you feel about Ko when we first are introduced?
Oh, instantly, I was like, "This is just like James Dean." That's immediately my thought. He's even wearing, like, the white shirt that tucked in into his jeans. Yeah, yeah, I just immediately got the vibe that he was inspired by greaser culture, and he just cares about his motorcycle, nothing else.
The love. The movie starts with him rubbing, like, the
Yeah.
engine. I think that's the engine.
Yeah.
I don't know much about motorbikes. I'm pretty sure that's the engine, and it feels like it's his lover in a
Mhm.
way, but the film doesn't start off with him meeting his main love interest, Miyoko. It starts with a young girl who put a ad in the paper that she wants to just ride on a motorcycle. They go off on a motorcycle ride. There is a part of it that feels a little coercive, but I think
Mhm.
it's just because it's the 80s. I don't think it's the movie's intention. How do you feel about the direction the film takes in the beginning when we first see him dating, when we first see him riding his motorbike?
Like, when he's first dating Fuyumi, you mean? Yeah, that's what I was telling you off mic that I wanted to get into, and maybe we can get into it later, but
Mhm.
it's during that time when he's dating her that I really saw this contrast between the black and white and the color stock, which the film goes between. The main thing I should point out is like a segue to what I'm explaining is that he says at the start something like, all my dreams are monochromatic or something. So I kept that in my mind as I was watching the film to see if is the black and white a dream or not, or maybe he's remembering, like he's saying the story years in the future and he's remembering things, but maybe he's not remembering them how they actually were. That scene that you're referring to with the waterfall, I'm pretty certain that was in black and white, right?
Mhm.
And I noticed it was looking so cinematic, content matter aside, just the way it looked like she was framed with all those beautiful lights just hitting her. There's a waterfall in the background. And I started thinking, huh, I wonder maybe this isn't truly what happened because it looks stunning and perfect. And then he reverts to color where things seem a bit more quote unquote normal.
You definitely see a lot of close-ups of each girl's face,
Mhm.
smiling a lot, and that's a young man remembering things that didn't exactly happen the way he thinks. It's don't. Now I've never heard of that. Everyone always has the right perspective. He has this young girl he's on a date with, and it feels to me coercive, which I think it's just the 80s, and also, as
Mm.
you said, with the difference of narration and how he viewed that. And her brother fights him and says, I would be mad. This girl's very young. She's
Yeah.
a teenager. And he's in his early 20s. And so he's
Mhm.
not necessarily in that adolescent stage. He's in that stage between adolescence and adulthood. I think that this movie is definitely a lot about that. When you say, like, how cinematic it is, I see a lot of pictures in my mind when I think of this movie, like, snapshots. That's why when
Mhm.
we first meet Miyoko, I love that she's taking pictures with a camera. When they first meet, he says she was looking forward to summer, and he always refers to her in a terms of, "This is her summer." How do you feel about her character when we first encounter her, and as things she's like a even kind of pretense before we even really get to know.
Mhm. She's very carefree at the start. She does seem very interested in him, but I think as the story unfolds and we learn more, she seems more interested in his motorcycle, right?
Oh,
But at the start, she showed an interest in his bike, but I still felt like he was, the main thing that attracted her to pause. It's only once we got to know her a bit better that it became obvious that it was the bike, or that's at least how I saw it.
and she's very bold, but it seems,
Mhm.
meant to be in an innocent way.
Yes,
Mm.
yes, which is weird. But then I also found as the story goes on, the gender roles were a bit reversed too, as she learns how to ride better and so on and so forth.
You know what's interesting? Because I don't know if you know the films like the Stray Cat rock and roll films that are about this biker girl gang that are
No.
Japanese. Oh, they're fun. They're not great, but they're fun. And I just watched the first one, so I can't actually tell you about the others, which is Stray Cat Rock Delinquent Girl Boss. And
Mhm.
interestingly enough, this is originally a book, and the author in his first draft originally had the role switched where
Mm.
Shiko was the biker and she meets Ko in the island, and she's the one that teaches him to drive. I don't know why the author chose to switch it,
Oh,
but isn't that interesting? Because
that's really interesting.
I think it's mostly I feel because the characters are supposed to be interchangeable. They're the same person, the same listlessness,
Mhm.
that they have this hunger for freedom.
Yeah,
And
that's a really interesting point. Sorry, you're just blowing my mind with this book fact because I was
I'm
thinking
so
about that too.
sorry.
And I kept meaning to look it up because I was wondering if some of the themes that Obayashi was going with, if they would match the book or if this was his own doing.
I couldn't tell you for sure. I mean,
Mm.
it does seem pretty close from the author writes similar books, and one of them is love is a white t-shirt and these dreamy romantic melodramas. It feels like they're like a trio, the Kawasaki, Miko, and Ko, when she starts getting more into motorcycles, Ko changes a little bit in how he feels. And I think since I don't know Japanese culture as well in the 80s especially, I couldn't be sure how much of it seemed like he felt overmasculated or not. But
Mhm.
we do find that he is told by Hinamasi that she's a prodigy. She's going to
Mhm.
die on that bike. And I think part of this movie is learning how to live in the moment, which is very much what they're doing. They both tell each other, Miyako and Ko, that they're bored. I've never felt that in my life. It must be nice. They're bored. And so it's an interesting thing when they're riding their bikes. It's not filmed sexually, but that's how they make love in a way.
Yeah, it's speaking of that as well, I noticed like a ton of phallic symbolism in the film too.
Really.
The bike, obviously,
Obviously.
of course, but then also
The
the
duel.
the duel I was gonna say as well, yeah. There's a lot of instances of that. I wish I spent a bit more time looking into that, but the one thing on the surface that really stood out to me was, as you were saying, living in the moment, but also within that, letting go of control. And I think that's the main thing with Ko and why he loves his motorcycle so much is because he's in control. Same thing with what he does with Fuyumi. He wants to be in control. And I think that's what sticks out with Mio is that he cannot control her at the end of the day because she cares about that bike more than she does him. And I think that's a huge reason why we see him start to crumble in the second half.
He's jealous. It's like she's
Mhm.
cheating on him by being independent with the bikes. Like when Sam Wagstaff and Patti Smith casually took photographs together without Maplethorpe, or when Trent Reznor said he felt like somebody took his girlfriend when Johnny Cash covered Hurt. It's that feeling like this is supposed to be an us thing or a me thing. This is not supposed to be a she thing. This is her thing.
Yeah.
Because he was the one that teaches her. And we do see him teach her, and we do see him visit her island, which she lives with her father there. It's actually where Obayashi originally lived. It's one of the things he filmed where he came from. And it's this untouched little island where they have these old Bon traditions where people go and they dance and the father sings, and the camera really points out how Ko can't dance along with everybody else because he's the outsider. And I couldn't find anything on it, but part of me felt like maybe it's talking to like this, it's like untouched in a pure way, but also to something that is very much Japanese tradition and kind of in the Japanese way, as opposed to the city that has more of a mixing of cultures.
Yeah, that's really interesting that you bring that up. I didn't really think too much of it, but I guess I was more so focusing on the American influence at the time. But yeah, that is a sort of clashing of two worlds because for me, I was so hyper fixated on this biker culture, which was, of course, as you said, brought to America after the Second World War, the American occupation. That's also when Japan saw all those movies like Rebel Without a Cause, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I was looking more so into the American influence on Japanese culture when I think, yeah, there's something to be said about the old and more so traditional way of living that we see on the island.
One thing that I love, I kept on thinking about music in this film.
Yes.
There is a song that is sung by the character that the actress that plays Fiyomi, called His Motorbike, Her Island. But I can't, I was so mad I couldn't put it together at first. Why does he have, because we see him alone in his room when they're contacting each other and they're just getting things set up and it's cute, and they're on the phone and it's almost, you hang up first. That energy, it's very adorable. I'm like, New Jersey girl? Why is there a New Jersey?
Yeah.
And then I found out that there was a big, this is the 80s American part of it, is
Mhm.
Bruce Springsteen had a big
Yes.
concert.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh my God, this movie is Born to Run. Put your legs around my velvet ribs and strap your arms across my
Yes.
engines. That's this movie,
Yeah. I think it's honestly matched up by a few months or something when he visited Japan.
When I think biker, greaser, I think the 50s,
Mhm.
unless they're more hippie looking than I think at the end of the 60s into the 70s. But I love Bruce Springsteen, of course. And it's the guy that could make the New Jersey Turnpike romantic. Why not? Anything could be if you just look at it that way.
Yeah.
And I like how you point out how the colors really shift a lot in this.
Mhm.
Obayashi says he sometimes just picked, I'm going to do color today or I'm going to do black and white today. But it did
That's funny.
say one character is specifically done in black and white. And I won't share that with our audience because I don't want to ruin
Mhm.
too much of the film. But what did you think of? It's hard to decipher, but it's interesting. Like sometimes it's in between, isn't it? Where it's like black
Mhm.
and white and color.
Yeah, there was one scene that I had to rewind because I was like, "This is so cool." When Mio first gets on his bike after the bathhouse, and it's just one shot, just they drive along and it goes from color to black and white, and I was like, "Wait a minute, did he cut? What happened?" And I had to rewind it. I still think that my theory stands. I really do, that things aren't being remembered properly. I think if Obayashi didn't include that sentence by Ko at the start, I would probably not be so dead set on this theory.
He sounds so cool when he says it. I'm just a guy that dreams in monochrome, and
Yeah.
this is one of those dreams.
Yeah, get over yourself, Ko.
Oh, he's
Seriously.
young. He'll
That
have
is
enough
true.
time to feel shame with age. Hopefully not. Hopefully not too much.
Mhm.
We don't know. We know these characters young. His ex-girlfriend, she becomes a singer at the bar that they would
Mhm.
frequent and songwriter. And his friend at the music school, he's actually into doing the school thing, but they still play around on the
Mhm.
motorbikes together. So it's interesting to we first see his first girlfriend sing a song at that bar. And this is a scene I love because it's so dramatic.
Mhm.
And this is before Miyako really is a part of the story. And she's singing a song Ko wrote called
Yeah.
Sunshine Girl. And her tears are intentionally overflowing. So many tears, and I'm like, "I've been there, girl.
Yeah.
I've been there," and then you're singing his song on stage. Oh god.
So sad.
Whew. Young love. And
Mhm.
he's just sitting there, and he doesn't feel good about it, but he's avoiding it. She runs out crying, and his friend's like, "If you don't go after her, I will."
Mhm.
Makes me wanna say that sometimes, but,
Yes. Absolutely.
The scene is cute, but also maybe competitive. How did you read the scene where Miyako and the first girlfriend and the friend are all in the bar together, and then after she sings her original song, that Miyako goes up and starts singing at the bar?
Yeah, that's a really good question because I think I flip-flopped on that. Honestly, initially, I didn't even recognize Fuyumi. That was another moment where I had
I
to
love
rewind.
that red. I love red. I
Yeah,
love wearing red,
me
and it's like
too.
this stunning. We see her all in an all red getup, and she
Mhm.
looks more adult. She
Yeah.
looks stunning. She has her life more figured out. And Ko even asks her, like, "You still just cooking and crying?"
So
And
mean.
she's like cool about it. She's like, "Just cooking now, because she's got
Mhm.
nothing to cry about over you."
Exactly. That's what I love, about it, though. There's no true antagonist in this film. Fuyumi thrives after that breakup. Her brother and Ko, they have that duel. Her brother, I guess you could consider a villain for maybe, what, 15 minutes of the
I'm on his
film?
side. I'm on
Y
his side the whole time
Absolutely.
anyway.
But I don't know, there's no antagonist. It's just all truly everybody has parts to them that are redeemable, and not everybody has parts that aren't redeemable, but nobody's really a true villain.
And they become friends again.
Mhm.
The brother had a messy, and that's when he has the conversation about Miyako being like, "Oh, she's destined to crash."
Mhm.
I had this feeling of I'm not at that age anymore. I'm in my 30s, but I do as a human being think sometimes I really got to live in the moment and let go of the
Same.
outcome of things, especially in romance. You got to let go of the outcome and just enjoy what's in the now and not always worry about what's to come.
Mhm.
And for Ko, it's the worry of losing her to not just an accident, but maybe she'd outgrow him more
Mhm.
likely. But how did this movie make you feel?
Man, good question. Nostalgic? Really nostalgic, even for I don't even know necessarily what. I think nostalgia can be a feeling. It doesn't really need to be tied to a
Specific.
specific place exactly. And I think that's a huge point of the movie too. It opens, looks like an old film. And yeah, it just made me feel warm and at peace. Strangely enough, it's the sort of film that makes you go and think of those major first loves of yours and that sort of breathlessness that comes with that. Yeah, I think the film it's light, it's breezy. It really does feel like you are on a motorbike on an island driving along in the breeze.
It definitely does feel that way, as it's a carefree film, and,
Yes.
we were not gonna discuss the ending because why ruin it? Why
Mhm.
spoil the surprise? But it definitely captures a certain point in life. When Obayashi said this film's like a B film where it's complicated, it's compared to House, it's not as complicated. I've seen him describe how he directs twice, and was with House, with directing his actors. He said that the idols he had from his commercials for House
Mhm.
weren't great at acting. But the soundtrack had already come out for House because they didn't originally have him as director, and there was like this 2-year period before it actually became a film. And so he played the soundtrack, and the girls would act to the music going up or down. And he said for this film, this is the only film I did dancing where I just motioned to people of how to do things. And maybe that's another thing why I thought about music so much. I thought
Mm.
of in the beginning one of my favorite Queen songs, like "I'm in Love with My Car," where they says, "Tell my girl I have to forget her or rather get a new carburetor." And he doesn't even have time to tell his girl, "We're not a thing anymore." Does it make you think of any kinds of music?
Does it make me think of any kinds of music? I don't know. I don't know if it makes me think of any kinds of music. I think I was just so preoccupied in the music of the film.
It
I
is like a
noticed,
song.
yeah, I think in my notes even at one point I wrote down that it does have musical elements as well. There's a lot of singing. Is there dancing in this one, or am I confusing it with the movie I watched the other night?
Just at the Bon.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking a lot of, I guess, Japanese pop, but I don't know if that's really due to this film. That's also just because I've been listening to a lot of Japanese city pop lately, but
Oh,
I'll go with your idea.
do you have any recommendations?
Oh, I have an entire list. I can send it to you after the I think we just really love this film. Or
Yeah.
I do. Did you like it?
Oh, I love this film. I thought it was fun. I thought it's sweet. That's
Mhm.
the word that comes first to mind when I think it's a very sweet film.
Mhm.
It does make you think of when you're first dating somebody,
Yeah.
or and things are just fun and easy breezy, even the little fights and stuff, like
Mhm.
that honeymoon period, and especially when you have something that you love in common, or even if you don't, you love getting into each other's stuff and
Yeah.
sharing things, like he teaches her how to I'll learn how to ride a motorbike. I probably wouldn't do it on my own because I'm not an adrenaline seeker. I don't know about
Mhm.
you.
No,
I'm klutzy and my head
same.
doesn't wanna be on the pavement, so
Same. Never.
I'll leave that to Miyako and Co. to ride
Yeah.
off into the distance for us.
I love that. That's
Well,
beautiful.
thank you so much for coming on my podcast, and I'm gonna have the links in the description. You look
Mhm.
below and you can see where you can find Marta. What are some projects that you might wanna share?
Right now, I just launched recently my own publication that is
Oh, wow.
Rewind and Revive, which you can find at rewindandrevive.com. And
Look
that's
below.
just exactly. That's just a space for me to share film reviews. A podcast will probably be attached to that by the time our episode comes out. I'm getting started on that really soon. But besides that, I'm on Letterboxd, Marta McFly, one word. Um,
TikTok?
TikTok, yeah. I don't even know my handle on TikTok. I'm not that active on there. I think it's Marta dot McFly, which I
Dot
had
McFly.
to do after my old account got booted.
Well, I won't
But
call
I'm
you chicken.
thank you. But I guess I'm most active on Instagram. So that's just Marta McFly, as you can see below. But yeah, I'm around. I'm everywhere.
Everyone, thank you for joining us. Whether you enjoyed hearing us talk about his motorbike, Her Island, and you've watched it, thank you. And if you haven't seen it, definitely go watch it. I bought a physical copy off of Diabolical
Mhm.
DVD. Is that where you bought yours?
No, mine's from eBay, but I know we have the exact same
Yeah, I know we
copy.
do. Third window films. We'll take.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and or it's also right now, as far as I know, on the internet
Yes.
archive. So go look there. So thanks again for joining us. Until next time.
Thanks for having me, Emma. Bye.
You're welcome. Bye.